Anxiety and depression and other dark nights. Hellhole and hell to make us whole. What's that about? Well, our best personal example to demonstrate how this growth process in action helps to develop us to be more complete in this journey that we've been talking about. Although approximately 25% of your listeners will experience a similar devastating life event as I did, most other listeners will, as a minimum, experience a different devastating dark night, such as the loss of a loved one, the betrayal of a life partner, a child with a chronic illness that compromises their well-being, a life partner with dementia, etc., etc., etc. So we think this is highly relevant to make it in our game changer list here. One day about 30 years ago, as my twin sister and I walked off the court after winning our regional mixed doubles tennis championship, I encouraged Polly to push her doctor to find the cause of her recent severe headaches. I can describe in detail when I called to get the news that the CAT scan had revealed an untreatable cancerous brain tumor, glioblastoma. It would take her life 3 years later. Her devoted husband, family, and siblings fought to save her, but eventually we had to let go as she gracefully embraced Thy will with sacred gratitude for her 49 years. I helplessly watched by my totally consumed, life-threatening clinical depression with medical complications that left me disabled for 3 years. Beyond any doubt, this was the most painful and devastating time in my life and my family's life. On a scale of 1 to 10, with the Great Depression being 10, since that time I've yet to experience a stressful situation on a 5 scale of that suffering. I'd unintentionally lost 70 pounds, had been only able to sleep about 3 hours a night for months really, in and out of panic attacks on a near daily basis, cried most days for 3 to 5 hours, and had lost all anticipatory excitement for anything. My depression inventory that I tracked weekly for 2 years was levels 8, 9, and 10 for virtually all of the 20 anxiety and depression symptoms. When I was depressed, I longed for the day even when I once again could feel the good old bad emotions like worry, shame, guilt, impatience, anger, disapproval, unfairness, etc. What a relief that would have been for the absolutely nothingness of the darkness and the terrorizing fear. Happiness can often be relative, right? The worst moment of the day was when I opened my eyes to start my day of suffering. The only meaningful relative release from this hell came when I, together with Joanne and our kids sometimes, gave primary personal care to Joanne's 91-year-old dad after his stroke. Changing briefs and bathing miraculously was able to bring me temporarily to at least a level 3 on my scale of 1 to 10 happiness. For over a year, I'd refused to get medical help too. I mean, why would I need to get medical help? Because I was extremely happily married with an incredible family, director of the Regional Center of Addiction Research Foundation of Ontario at the time, a very committed and active volunteer in my community, a highly respected social and healthcare professional, a vegetarian, an elite amateur athlete, had done graduate studies in counseling psychology, a 10-year mindfulness practitioner at the time, loved and respected by many people. So why would I need medical help for this? Well, before this time, my growing up skills and insights had cut down many of the big trees in my personal growth forest, for sure, that I was preparing for more planting. Unknown to me, however, 2 large stumps still required blasting from deep in the ground. Fear, in the illusion that I had transcended my PFP ego's drivenness and filters. Those are the 2 big stumps left in the ground. Through this experience of the depression, I learned that awakening to certainly my fullest mind, body, and spiritual potential is an ever-deepening spiral, and that we're always just a phone call away from being brought to our next classroom. And I'll try to awaken each morning in gratitude and commitment to see the joy in every moment, because of my understanding that even challenging situations and difficult people can be special teachers. In our Stealing Happiness book, we offer what we call 7 essential steps to not only survive, as many don't, as you know, but also to come out of the other side of the dark night much further along our growing up path process. So we talk about first aid and CPR, if you will, and start with the big question, personal growth, why bother, and how this fits into that motivation to really grow to our biggest, best potential for ourselves and to help others. Number 2, talk about some causes. One of the big ones is life out of balance, right? I was totally out of balance when this happened. I'd been working 70 hours a week, including volunteering and just a whole range of other challenges, and my elastic was just stretched to the limit. And then my twin sister gets this life-threatening illness. It's a relative piece that we have to really understand around the causes. So here's our 7 best to make sure these happen if you happen to be a part of this or coaching someone who was a part of this type of a devastating life event. First of all, encourage folks to recruit a coach. Just can't say enough. A friend, a family member, professional, whoever, but a coach that really knows what they're doing here, preferably someone that's been here. Next, cardio exercise. Just cannot say enough about that. I just read Spark by Dr. John Reddy from Harvard, one of my teachers, and just see the importance of somehow getting yourself to do cardio exercise. Nutrition, there's a lot of books written on the nutrition that is necessary, but we must prevent those GI infections, get sure we've got balanced nutrition happening, and avoiding the many ways that we can just, without even knowing it, slip into these imbalances. Medications are likely really important. I resisted medications for over a year, but there's a full range of medications. But make sure that you work with a good medication manager, someone that really knows what they're doing, not just a general one-size-fits-all. It's a real science to manage medications. Anxiety, mentioned that. Also, I'm sure we're handling anxiety because depression and anxiety are joined at the hip, really. Seldom have one without the other. And that lifestyle coaching that I mentioned, make sure that when you get a coach, that there's someone who you can relate to and someone who really is not only competent but caring. The big 2, right? And yes, I think someplace down the road, cognitive behavioral therapy is helpful, but we do not recommend going into some deep discoveries at this time when you're most vulnerable and wondering if you want to stay alive or not. This is not the time to go into the deep stuff, and you do not need that, I would suggest, from the literature that I read in order to progress through this illness and come out the other side. Mindfulness, meditation, yoga, something like that, really, really important. I had been a mindfulness practitioner for like 10 years before this hit. So people often ask me, so why meditate if you still got a deep clinical depression, a life-threatening depression? I say, well, because it was the mindfulness that really helped me put perspective on this and helped me come out the other side, I think, much further along my growth path than I normally would have. So mindfulness is not a bulletproofing vest that we wear. Mindfulness is a way to take life experiences and transcend with them, transform into your deeper potential, and that's where mindfulness is about. It's not designed to protect from all the evils of life and whatnot, so that's very important. And finally, I mentioned transcranial magnetic stimulation. Won't go into it, but it's really, really being well researched to help with hard to treat depressions. And then next, I encourage you to reread our Stealing Happiness, The Inside Job. We've got many suggestions in there as to how to not only survive this, but to get through the other side in a way that is quite transformative.